Welcome back, students, to the lore of the Iron Kingdoms. I am, of course, Professor Castor, and today we're actually trying out something new. Today we're going to start grouping some Warbeasts together, and today we're going to start with the Arguses. And for everybody that does not know, Arguses are two-headed, dog-like creatures that have tremendous power. And as they always say, dog's a man's best friend, and two heads are better than one, making these guys even more deadly on the battlefield, able to double the damage output of a normal dog, along with all of the special abilities that go with this being a Warbeast in the Circle Orboros. And a few notes before we begin. A huge thank you to Privateer Press for letting us read their phenomenal lore. And as always, please like, subscribe, and comment, letting me know if you would like to hear about any other faction characters, Warbeasts, warjacks, units, etc. I would love to start pulling anything else into our list just to see what you guys like. Alrighty, let's begin. The Argus Moonhound. Circle Light Warbeast. Prowling the nighttime shadows, the Argus Moonhound stalks the wilds of Western Amoran to hunt down the enemies of the Circle Orboros no matter where they hide. Moonhounds can detect the very faintest sense of prey. Even supernatural methods of concealment cannot thwart their superlative senses. Across canes, moonhounds flush out those who seek to escape the circle, calling to their masters with the chorus of low baying. Victims who try to flee are relentlessly run down by these savage hounds' powerful jaws. The Argus Moonhound is a product of the Blackclad's meticulous stewardship of the wild Argus packs. The beast handlers of the circle perceive these some nocturnal breeds of Argus vastly outstripped others as trackers. In work spanning generations, the Blackclads cultivated these breeds, allowing desired traits to flourish. In time, the Moonhound came to rely less on sight and more on its other, keener senses. Each night, packs of Moonhounds emerge from their dens to greet the moon's Calder, Artis, and Laris. The songs of these ferocious beasts echo over the wilds at dusk, signaling the onset of the pack's nightly hunts. Moonhounds are deeply attuned to the moons of Cain, and their behavior alerts with the varying phases of each moon. During the light of the full moons, they often lash out, wild, and attack relentlessly. But when the moons are new, they are patient and silent stalkers. Druids who rely on Moonhounds have learned to anticipate these cycles and adjust their strategies accordingly. Teams of Moonhounds often accompany circle forces, delving into dense terrain where thick undergrowth and massive trees can hinder vision, such as the Gnarls or the Ulgenholt. Unable to rely on their own eyes, the Blackclads know they can trust the natural abilities of their loyal Argus. Alrighty, fun fact for anybody who's never seen an Argus, they are a double-headed dog, which are terrifying in their own sense, especially since in the Warmachine universe or Iron Kingdoms, there are normal dogs, so these guys are just a peculiar menace to everybody in the woods, actually. Fun fact about these guys is they also have circular vision because since they have two heads are better than one, and they can look at every angle. They can also mark their targets as well, at least this version of them, which makes them a lot easier to have near your enemies so you can shoot the enemies easier. Also, they have the ability to hunt down guys that are trying to be stealth in the model and mark their location for their particular warcaster so they can hunt them down, which is terrifying. I've gone up against many different types of Argus in my time in the field, and each one of them is annoying, and their abilities to just jack up my people on the field, just awful all around. Alrighty, class, let's discuss a little bit about the Argus Moonhound's variation between a Mark III to a Mark IV. Alrighty, appears all of its stats have maintained the same. Still has a mat of 5, defense and arm 14. Still has Pathfinder. They removed circular vision because in Mark IV there is no back arcs anymore, so it's not really a thing. He still has his Mark Target, which allows him to help other friendly faction models get +2 to range attacks against enemies within 5 of him. Also, his Animus, Hunting Howls, still makes enemy models lose stealth, so that's still a thing. So, phenomenal. As far as he goes, not much has changed between his Mark III and Mark IV, so great. Wild Argus. Circle Light Warbeast. These huge and ferocious two-handed canines are beasts of thick muscle, solid bone, and sharp teeth. The druids have spent centuries taming, breeding, and training them for battle and protection. Argus bred by the Circle are far larger and more vicious than such animals tamed by Northern Kodor. They pack a surprising punch for their size, but it's the power of their paralyzing bark that the Circle Warlocks most value. The acoustic assault can render even the mightiest enemies powerless, allowing the druids to strike when and where they choose. Argus are virtually impossible to surprise. They constantly scan their surroundings and are sensitive to the slightest movement. Warlocks will rely upon these fast reflexes of their Argus, which stand ready to spring instead on any who harm their pack. This instinct is irrepressible, and the deep bonding that occurs between the pup and the druid ensures that the Argus will never hesitate to sacrifice its life to protect its master. Famed for their endurance, Argus can run at great speeds over long distances. These combinations of stamina and almost supernatural keen senses make them ideal hunters, and the druids use them to track prey, two-footed or otherwise. Argus are surprisingly intelligent, and druids with enough expertise and patience can train theirs to understand complex orders. In addition to the snapping jaws of their two vicious heads, Argus can use a sonic attack to disorient and daze their enemies. In the wild, the beast hunt in packs, with one Argus paralyzing its target with its bark, and the others leap in for the kill. I've actually gone up against these particular Argus multiple times, and I tell you what, every time my troops are near, and one of these things does its little Doppler effect or whatever with that bark, they freeze up on the spot. Not sure why, but everything just stops. Their mind stops, their actions stop. Anything with a heartbeat, or had a heartbeat because it works on undead weirdly enough, they just freeze up, and it is very dramatic when that happens. So, unfortunately, I usually gun these things down as soon as I see them in the field, just as a precaution. Alrighty, let's discuss the Mark III to Mark IV changes for the Wild Argus. And as usual, stat line hasn't really changed. He's still speed 6, still a mat 5. In his abilities, of course, he lost circular vision because there's no back arcs now. He still has combo strike, however, instead of adding his strength plus twice the power of the weapon, it's just a +4 across the way, so it's a POW 16 hit. Also, his animus is still Doppler Bark, which does all the fun stuff that Doppler Bark did, which is living in undead models currently within 2 of the spellcasters have their defense reduced to 5 and cannot charge, run, make slam, or trample attacks for 1 round. So still a gross model to go with, still has his ability to combo strike, and is still a deadly force on the battlefield. Moving on to the Winter Argus, Circle Light Warbeast. Small caravans and lone hunting parties regularly vanish in the wilds of Khadorn North. Often the only signs left to mark their ends are scattered spots of blood-reddened snow and the paw prints of the savage Winter Argus. Few linger over such a scene, lest their scent attracts the attention of these relentless predators. Prowling under cover of great northern storms, Winter Argus leap from the veil of snow and wind with the chilling howl. Great gouts of gelid breath freeze their victims in place until the Argus pack closes in for the feast. Frozen flesh shattered between their powerful jaws, and even steel cracks once weakened by the cold of their breath. The Winter Argus that stalk the dark, frozen hinterlands of the Scarsfell Forest and the Blackroot Woods display behaviors and hunting techniques similar to those wild wolves, harrying prey over deep snow where they will have the advantage of speed and through the tangled forest that cut off avenues of escape. Some druids of the Circle Orboros dislike this breed because it's difficult creating new pack bonds and rarely demonstrates the loyalty of the more southern breeds. Northern druids, however, prize its savagery and the supernatural cold it can manifest to cripple the enemies of their order. Alright, fun facts about these frost-bitten, double-headed wolves is they actually have the ability, it says here in the archives, that they have the ability to freeze people on the spot just by getting near them, much like Sorshka of the Khadorn army. If you get near this guy and you stop near him, you have a chance of actually freezing to the spot unless you have some kind of immunity to cold magics, which very few people outside of Kodor do. Yeah, these things are freezing cold just to be near. And not only that, they also have the ability to breathe frost onto people and cause them to freeze on the spot as well, which I don't think any other Argus have an attack like that. Like they have the Doppler Bark, yeah, that freezes people. Well, it more, stuns people, really. But the ability to freeze people with just your breath is kind of a scary prospect for a dog. Alrighty, let's go over the Mark 3 to Mark 4 changes for the Winter Argus. And again, like most Warbeasts that we've seen, his stats have remained pretty much unchanged. He's still, defense 14, arm 15, has 2 frost breath attack with critical freeze on them, a spray of 6. Although his bite has been nerfed down to 10, unfortunately. Not sure what their reasoning is for that. And his animus is still Winter Coat, which gives the spellcaster resistance to cold and freezer, which means anything that ends its activation within 2 of him becomes stationary, so that should give him some survivability, really. Also, a side note on resistances. If they are resistant to anything, such as the frost, fire, or electricity, it just gives them 1 less damage die of damage on that particular model. So if they're resistant to it, instead of rolling 2 dice, you roll 1. Unless it's boosted, then you get to roll 2. And then some fun things on the new resistance rules to that as well. With corrosion, things that have resistance to corrosion no longer suffer from the continuous effects of corrosion. With electricity resistance, you no longer arc electricity, so if somebody hits you with an arcing attack, it just absorbs into you, it doesn't go anywhere. And then with fire, you do no longer have a continuing effect on that if you have resistance to it. But those are just the resistance rules. Feel free to check out the app. They're free to check out on your Android or iPhone device that you downloaded the app on. So you can take a gander with it there. It is free. Alrighty, class. Well, that will cover every Argus that is in the Circle Orboros right now. And as always, please like, subscribe, comment, let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if there's anybody else you would like to hear about across the Iron Kingdom's universe. Another big thank you to Privateer Press as well for letting us read their phenomenal lore on this channel. And your homework, as always, please let your friends and fellow gamers know about this particular podcast / YouTube channel so we can keep increasing the class size so the faculty will let me keep doing this course for you guys every week. And as always, class dismissed.